Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of Live with Google for Nonprofits. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you all coming and learning more about Google tools. For those of you who are joining us for the first time today, Live with Google for Nonprofits is a twice monthly show in which we bring in product experts from multiple areas of Google and other external partners to help all of us make the most of technology. A few reminders before we get started. If you are not seeing the live chat on the right side of your screen, just make sure to refresh your browser. By doing so, the live chat should show up. Our teammates are all in the live chat ready to answer your questions. So make sure to post there if you have any questions during the show, and we'll be able to answer them during our product demo as well as after the show. Today, we're super excited to have the Google Sites team with us. So Becca, Eric, and Michael are here to do an introduction of Google Sites, as well as a live product demo and Q&A. So like I said, please use the chat to interact with us, and we'll be able to answer your questions live. A few more reminders before we get started. You can definitely send in your ideas for future shows on the survey at the end. So we'll be sending that out at the very end of the show, and you can fill that survey to go ahead and request ideas that you have for future topics. Today's topic, Google Sites, was actually chosen because one of our viewers filled in the survey and requested to learn more. So we are using those results to define the topics for this show. If you're looking for a deep dive into Google for Nonprofits, you can actually see that on our YouTube channel. We have several videos that do introductions and different topics about how to make the most of Google for Nonprofits tools, as well as tutorials to get started. So we won't be going through that today. We'll be going through Google Sites today. But if you're looking for that, please tune in the future on our YouTube page. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to be notified of future live shows. So thank you so much for joining us. If you have any things that you want to bring up at the show, please use the comments in the live chat. And then without further ado, I'll bring on Becca to do an introduction of Google Sites. Hi, Becca.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm excited.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and present your slides. There you go.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So thank you so much for joining. We're the Google Sites team. I'll do an intro in a second. But first, I'll just go through the agenda for today. So first, we'll tell you a little bit about the team and our mission as a website building platform. We'll also go through the key features of Google Sites, some of the recent launches and things we're really excited about that sort of highlight the tool we're hoping to build and provide for folks. And then Michael and Eric are going to be walking you through the process of creating a new site and putting those features into practice. All right, so a little bit of an overview of who we are. Like I said, I'm Becca. I'm the lead researcher for Google Sites, which means that my job is to essentially better understand people's needs, like what are the use cases we want to support, what are the things we want to enable, and then to use that information to help inform the overall vision for the product. And Michael and Eric are the two people with whom I work most closely. I'll let them do more formal introductions of themselves, but I'll say here that Michael leads our engineering team, and then Eric is responsible for that product vision as the product manager. Our overall mission on the Google Sites product, and this is something that's like centrally important to us and that really governs like everything that we do, is that we want to provide people, everyone, with the ability to easily create beautiful, mobile-friendly, accessible, and polished websites, all without having to know how to code. And you'll see these values sort of infused in the features that we're going to be talking about today, but also in the demo that Michael and Eric will be doing. Some key components of this that I'll just go over briefly before I get into features. The first is we want to enable people to be able to share information really quickly. So you can create from scratch with no website building experience a Google site in minutes and be publishing it and have it out on the web. And this can really be anything. We see Google Sites used in all sorts of really interesting ways, which again, I'll get into later. But doing this requires no design skills, no programming skills. We make it really easy to embed content from across Workspace, which used to be called G Suite. So you might be familiar with it by that name, but whether it's a doc or a slide deck or anything like that, really easy to embed that right into a Google site. Other types of Google content like maps or YouTube videos. And then also we allow you to sort of share the site in ways that allows you to maintain control over who can see it and edit it. We also think it's really important to provide people with the tools to really bring their content to life. So there's lots of templates and layouts that are available so you can hit the ground running when you're making a Google site. Editing a Google site is often no more than just dragging and dropping tiles or modules around to add content. And then every Google site is automatically optimized for mobile. So you don't need to do anything to create a site that's responsive. That's something you sort of just get for free by using Google Sites. And then finally, we want to make it like really easy to update content. We know it's so important for viewers to a site to have some confidence that what they're looking at is up to date and fresh and accurate information. So we want to make it as easy as possible for the editors and owners of a site to keep that information up to date. And so we do this in a couple of ways, allowing collaboration so multiple users can be editing information at the same time. We have a really easy to use interface. And it's also, we have like, unlike some of the other editors, this notion of draft and publish. So you can work on a site for as long as you want. And then when you're really ready to share it with other folks, you hit that publish button and it goes out to everyone. Some key use cases that we see in case it's sort of helpful to understand how organizations are using sites. So we see a lot of organizations, whether that's nonprofits or businesses or educational institutions and so on, creating internal sites, to keep track of teams, projects, to advertise or get sign up for events, to provide like critical information via help centers like, FAQs or benefits or policies, intranet landing pages like your homepage for your organization, and also news and updates, just keeping the folks you work with up to date about changes at your organization or key information they need to know. We also see a lot of folks using Google Sites to create external sites. So a huge amount of variety here. Basically anything you can imagine, we've seen people create Google Sites for, but some of the most popular categories that we see are things like small business sites. So if you run a restaurant or a handy person business or anything like that, having a site to share that information with your community. Again, events are really popular, conferences or really any type of event, online learning, hobbyist groups, clubs, sports teams, and so on, informational sites like places where you want things to be documented. And then also personal sites. We see a ton of people using Google Sites just to maintain their own presence on the internet. This is actually an example site of how Google Sites might be used by a nonprofit. So you can kind of see some examples here of having, an integration with calendars. So you can list things that are coming up, providing training to both employees and volunteers, providing people with the ability to log hours and so on. All right, so now I'm going to go over a couple of the features that I think make Google Sites like a really special tool, and that again, like really align with this vision of providing a really powerful tool that's not really hard to use and that's accessible to everyone, regardless of whether or not you have any coding experience or any web design experience. The first of these, and actually one of my favorites, is that no code is required at all. Like the entire interface is drag and drop. So you can add tiles to a site, and the site is made up of these tiles, and you can move them around just like this with no code at all. Like I mentioned earlier, Google Sites are also inherently mobile friendly. So this GIF we have on the right just shows you how a site will automatically sort of resize and adjust to a smaller window. Another feature that we've seen a ton of usage of, and that I think is like really powerful, is templates. So you can start from scratch when you're creating a site, a completely blank site, and just really turn that into your vision, but you can also use one of our templates as a starting point. And we have a ton of different templates and a ton of different sort of like topic or disciplinary areas, some of which you can see here, but again, there's a lot more available in the tool. Layouts is another really powerful feature. So in addition to providing like a drag and drop interface, we also, if you look on the right here, you can see we provide like some pre-designed layouts. You just click on one of these buttons, it's automatically dropped into your site, and then you can just go ahead and add the images or the content or the links or whatever it is you want to add, already having like this beautiful, like really nice layout provided for you. Another feature is just being able to have like deep customization of buttons. I think like, again, this is something that's special about Google Sites because it requires no coding whatsoever. everything is just like very intuitive, that you can adjust all sorts of settings just as a part of how these features work in Google Sites. Another one that folks love, this was a very highly requested feature, and I was really delighted when we finally launched it, is image carousels that you can just add a bunch of photos to, as you see in this GIF of very cute animal photos, and just automatically gets added to your site for your site visitors to enjoy and learn from. Collapsible text, this one's a little bit more detailed, but essentially really useful if you're creating something like an FAQ or a help page or something like that, being able to have any page where you need to have like a lot of information, but you want it to be accessible to folks and for them to kind of navigate this in an easy way. You can see on the demo on the right that collapsible text is sort of perfect for this. Inline text customization. So any sort of like customizations that you're used to seeing in something like a Google Doc or Google Slides is available to you in Google Sites. So after you drop in that text, you can adjust typefaces and colors, and you have the ability to sort of customize that in any way that you'd like. An announcement banner. This is a more recent feature. This is something we added that allows you to add a high-level banner to the top of your page so that visitors, you can like draw their attention to some particular announcement or some particular link. So you can see here in the GIF that this GIF is like walking through the process of adding one. But yeah, you can see it adds it right to the top to draw folks' attention. We've seen a lot of people using this as there's like been more usage of just virtual online resources in general, since more folks have been working from home and sort of leveraging online resources. Another critical tool that's a more recent launch is version history. So I don't know if you've ever had the experience of collaborating on a document or a site or whatever it is with someone else, and realizing, oh, the changes that we've made, we actually would love to go back to a previous version. So this is something that you can now do in Sites. I think it's like very simply designed if you're used to how this works in, again, the other editors, as we say, so Google Docs or Google Slides or so on, you'll be used to how this works in Sites. But either way, it's a really easy to use tool so that you can sort of walk back and get information from past versions of the site. Another tool that's, I think, really, really great is something we call review changes and publish. So sites can be pretty complex. You can have a lot of pages, a lot of information, and this tool, which you can choose to use or not when you're publishing, allows you to review those changes. So it highlights them. It says, these are the changes that have been made since the last time you published this site. And so you really have a good informed understanding of what it is you're publishing, even if it's buried deep, 3 levels down in a page on your site. All right, so that was the overview of key features. I'm going to hand it over to Michael and Eric, who will also be popping in for the demo. Maybe Michael do a quick intro, and then he's going to walk you through the process of creating a new Google site.
Thanks, Becca. Great. So, all right, my screen is now up. So you can start your Google Sites journey by just going to sites.google.com. And you can see here that you'll see any sites you've worked on in the past that either you've created or have been shared with you. And up top here, we have some of these templates that Becca was talking about earlier. So I'm just going to highlight that for a minute and show off all the templates very quickly. You can see they're categorized by sort of organization or use case size, including work, enterprise, small business, some personal sites, sites for education, etc. But that would be too easy to start with one of those. So I'm going to start with a blank one instead. And great. So you can see I've created a completely blank site, excuse me. And I'm going to show you that it's still incredibly easy and fast to build a site from scratch. And you should also know that you can jump directly to this step just by going to sites.new to shave a few seconds off of your journey. So I'll take you through the page a little bit here. So on the left side, you can see sort of a preview, an editable preview of what your site will look like. So this is what we call what you see is what you get. So whatever you see here is exactly what your viewers will see eventually when they visit the site. And then on the top and on the side, we have some editing controls that only the site editors will see. So I'm going to take you through some of the tabs over here. So first we have the Insert tab, and that shows all the things you can add to a site. So we have some of the top most obvious things up here, including text boxes, images, embeds. We have layouts, which Becca talked about, which are just sort of pre-built image and text placeholders that sort of are grouped together that look, attractive and sort of take some of the design out of the equation for you. And then here's a list of all the other types of tools and embeds that we support, including things like collapsible text, which Becca mentioned, table of contents, image carousel, buttons, dividers, and a whole bunch of embed types. Next up, we have this Pages tab. I'm going to stick with a single page for now, but if you had a large site, you can see here how all the different pages sort of fit together. You can create, edit, delete pages from here. And then finally, our Themes tab, where you can pick from a set of attractive themes that we've already designed for you. The nice thing about this is if you kind of stick with our simple options, we can guarantee that your site will always look sleek and professional, as if a designer had done it with very little effort on your part. So I'm just going to pick a new theme here. I'll pick, say, actually I like level. I'll do level, and I'm going to leave it with the yellow accent color, and I'll just update the font. So we have some pre-built font styles here. I'm going to mention that we, in the near future, we're going to be launching a whole host of additional theming controls. You'll have really fine-grained controls over the whole theming options for the site, including text, color, branding images, and more. So let's start adding some content to the site. So first, I'm just going to name the site. And you can see that I'm just clicking, editing text, very straightforward. I'm going to change the header image here. So you can upload your own image. I'm going to pick from our gallery of attractive images, and I like this one. And let's see. So next, I'm going to pull in some of our layouts from the side here. And you can see you can drag and drop things, and as I hover over things, you can see kind of what you might do with them. So if it's a text box, you can just click to edit the text. This is an image placeholder. So I'm going to pick an image here, and you can see you could upload from Drive. You could paste in a URL to an image. You can search Google for images. So I'm just picking national parks as my theme for the day for the site. So I'm just going to pick some handsome images here. And you can see I'm just doing some basic text editing. And as Becca mentioned earlier, we support tons of text editing options and formatting options, including virtually all the tools that you may be familiar with from Google Docs and Google Slides. So now what I'm going to do is show off how collaboration would work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here, I'm going to click Share with Others, and I'm going to add the product manager counterpart here, Eric. And you can see I'm adding him as an editor. There are other options. I could add him as a published viewer, meaning he would only be able to see the published version of the site, but I want him to be a full collaborator, so I'm going to add him as an editor. And I'm going to share that now. And any second now, you will see Eric pop into the site. And I'll give him a chance to do that. So great. So right here, we can see at the top, this will show you all the different collaborators that are currently collaborating with you, editing the site in real time. So we can see that Eric is up here. And you can see from this outline here that Eric currently has this text box selected, and we'll be able to see changes that Eric makes in real time as he makes them. So things will just sort of pop into existence here. Great idea, Eric. He's added our charter doc embed. So you can see here that he's resizing it. This is an example of a Google Doc that's embedded straight in the site. And I could make changes to it or edit as well, but I'll let Eric decide what to do there. And Eric is making some more changes in real time here. He's adding a form, what looks like, to sign up for more information about our organization. So you can really start to get a sense of how powerful embedding can be and how you can take these components that you're used to using already and put them in a site and really bring things together for your viewers to be able to easily access. So I'm going to add a few more embeds to give you an idea of other types of things that are really powerful. I have an example here of a Twitter embed. So Twitter supports the ability to just take an existing stream, and then they have this like one-click copy code. So I've done that. I'm going to come back here, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to paste that into the site. And you can see that Google Sites is smart enough to recognize that, hey, you're pasting some code here. And it's going to give that a special treatment, and it's going to know that, okay, that's a special type of embed. So the HTML goes directly in here. We don't need to understand what this HTML is. We don't need to be coders. And I'm just going to show what this looks like, and we're just going to insert it. And you can see that this is now a sort of fully featured Twitter embed. And when we view the published site later, you'll see how interactive it can be. I'm going to pick another example of a type of embed here. So here I have an example of some national parks on a Wikipedia page. And I'm going to come back. Same thing, I'm just going to paste that URL that I selected and copied. And Sites was, again, smart enough to recognize that this is a special thing. And you can see that either I could show the entire sort of live page for my viewers, or I could show them just like a thumbnail that they could click to jump out and go to that page. But I'm going to pick the whole page preview because I think that's really cool. Great, and I didn't really show this before. You saw Eric doing a little bit. I'm going to show off drag and drop a little bit. So we have this 12-column grid, and we can easily size things in there. And the magic of this grid is that it keeps things really nice and simple, but you can get a sense of how to arrange things side by side and still preserve responsive layout and readability when you're on mobile. And I'll show that off in a little bit. So I'm going to add a few more features here. Let's see, I'm going to add an image carousel, and I'm going to I'll show off again some more. So I'll stick with my theme of national parks. And I'm just going to select, I already picked that one earlier. So I'll pick a few images here and insert them. Great. And later on, I'll show off how the viewer might see those. Let's see, add a few more things. A button here. A button is just a sort of a call to action. So I'll say, info, and if I had another, actually, well, Eric's already been, looks like he's been creating some pages in the background. So I'll say, so you can go directly to another page on the site, or you can fill this in with whatever URL you'd like. So I'm going to do that, and I'll make it bigger so it's more readable. And next up, let's see, a few more things. I'll show off that announcement banner that Becca talked about earlier. So I went to site settings, and now there's a bunch of settings here, including navigation, brand images, viewer tools, analytics, and I'm going to jump to announcement banner. I'll just throw this at the top, and you'll see that now this is what a user might see. So if I had some sort of breaking news or an announcement for viewers who've been to the site before, now they come back and they see that we have something new. It'll be really nice and convenient that it's highlighted at the top for them. And if I had a link, I could have them click that link there. So let's see. So now I'm going to talk about how to sort of preview the site to get a sense of what your viewers will see when they come visit it. So we have this preview button up here. We're going to click on that. And you can see that we just see only the site without the editing controls anymore. So this shows you exactly what your viewers will see. And you get a sense of what the site might look like for that person. And because I'm using a desktop web browser here, that's how I can see it. But I can also pick from other options. So I can see what this would look like on a phone. And you can see that what happened is we reflowed all of the text and embeds to make it really convenient for someone on a mobile device to use. And it's still very readable. I can still interact with things which is great. And then there's another option here for a tablet. So if you have users who are visiting from iPads, you can see what they would see too. And you can see this is kind of an intermediate layout where we've reflowed some things, but maybe not quite as much. And they'll go back to the desktop view, which is what I'm most accustomed to seeing. Great, so I'm going to exit the preview. Now I'm going to talk about publishing a bit. So I'm going to click the publish button. And you can see we picked a site name that we think will be easily readable. You can tell we probably pulled that from the title of the site. And you can see here, this is the URL that a visitor will use to get to the site later on. So this is just the domain for the G Suite accounts that we're using here, and this is that site name again. So this is a very human readable, understandable URL that your users will be able to see. I'll also mention that you can bring your own domain as well. If you have if you've registered a domain, we can bring that and redirect, and your users can use that domain instead of seeing sites.google.com. They can see acmeco.com or something like that. We have some other options here about who can view the site, including right now it's everyone at my domain, but I could, for instance, make it such that everyone in the world, so public, so that would be, and now it's a public internet site. I still haven't actually published it yet. I'm just still playing around with who will be able to see it, but now I'm going to click publish for the first time. And now, so I'm going to click on this pop-up that says your site's been published successfully, and we'll see, again, this is exactly what we previewed before. This is now a live site that anyone in the world can go to, and they'll see exactly this content. And now you can see a little bit more detail about how the interactive components work and how I can scroll through the doc. I can visit that doc directly. You could fill out this form that Twitter embed I can see in a bit more detail, and I can scroll through it. Same with that Wikipedia article. And our image carousel down here, I can scroll through the images. So it's a bit more dynamic. And you can see at the bottom here that it will tell you some other interesting information, like when the page was last updated and a way to contact the owner. And you can see, just if I quickly kind of resize, you can also see that not just the reflowing of content is not just for mobile devices. It really depends on whatever device you're using. But as I change the size of the page, the content will sort of spread out accordingly, look good, be responsive, still be usable. Great, so I'm going to go back now to my editing tab. And so when I published before, that included Eric's page, but Eric is going to keep making some changes in the background. So you can, we talked a little bit about this before, but while your viewers will always only see the most recent published site, we can be making changes in the background and decide once they're ready to go live and then republish. So I'm going to add a new page. So again, my viewers will not be seeing this until I'm ready to publish it. So I'll just add Michael's page here. And I will add a few text boxes just to show. And I'll make another change on the home page. And what I'm going to do now, I assume Eric has been making changes in the background. I don't know what they are because I haven't been watching him, but we've been working on our own pages, or maybe we've been working on the same page, or maybe this was spread across a long period of time. But next time I click publish, you're going to see that I can, we have this promotion here that tells you exactly what I'm about to tell you. We can see here is that this, on the left here is the current version of the site as I'm editing it. And what's on the right here is what's published to my viewers. So you can see here is, screen's a little tight because I'm trying to fit it within our webcast. But you can see here, this is what the same exact site that we've been, our viewers have been seeing. And if I go down here on the left side, you can see we've highlighted a few things that have changed. So you remember I just updated this text. So we've highlighted that that is now different from what is on the published site currently. And you can also see on the left here are some high-level changes. So you can see that I updated the home page. I added my own page, but let's take a look at Eric's page. So he also made some changes as well. And you can see before he just had a basic page with no content in it, but now we can see, oh, Eric's been adding this content in the background. So for instance, if Eric had been making changes, but maybe he wasn't ready to publish it yet, I would come here and I'd be able to see, oh, this looks like it's a work in progress. Let me, I'll wait until Eric's done before I come back and publish it. But now, since everything looks good, I'm just going to publish this again. And again, I can just refresh because I have it open in this tab. And you can see that. Okay. Now you can see that my page is there and Eric's page is there. And this is an example of a multi-page site now. So we have this navigation tab across the top, which didn't show up until we had multiple pages. Great. And one final thing I'll show off is version history, which Becca talked about earlier. And this is just like Becca mentioned, if you're familiar with version history as a Google Docs, Slides, or Sheets user, this interface will look very familiar to you. So you'll see on the right here's sort of a look back in time across all the major changes that have been made to the site. So you can see this is sort of, I created the site, about 20 minutes ago, and you can see sort of grouped and fine-grained changes across time. We could click on a previous version and see what the site looked like at that point. And if we needed to restore it, we could do that as well. And I think I'm done then. So with that, I'm gonna turn it back over for Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. I'm gonna go ahead and add Eric and Becca as well. We'll leave your demo live just in case there are any questions that are related to the demo. So we'll take it off for now, but if we do have any questions that come through specifically that we can show on the demo, you can just let me know and I'll put it on the screen. It seems like we have quite a few questions that came in. So just a few reminders for our audience, go ahead and put your questions. Hopefully we can get to as many questions as possible. And I guess we can just go ahead and get started with the Q&A. Then also one more thing to cover, this show is recorded. So if anybody missed anything in the live demo and you want to go back and rewatch it, you're able to do that. And it'll be at the same link that you're watching right now. You can just go ahead and come back to this link on our YouTube channel and rewatch this demo anytime you want. So thank you all again for joining. And here we go. I think we'll just go right into questions. So one question we got was, can sites be connected to a database? So for example, if someone wants to push the input by user into the site into a database, such as MySQL, or pull some info from the database and display it on the site, is that something that is possible?
I'll field this one, Eric, unless you want to take over. But so right now, our general approach to pulling in information from other sources is doing it via either like a code embed or an iframe embed, which are two embed types I showed off earlier. So for this use case, it sounds like you're probably a fairly sophisticated user if you have an understanding of databases, and maybe you have some other intermediate application development platform that you could pull information from. What we think the easiest way to do that is to build that using some other application and then pull that URL into sites as an embed type. I imagine over time we'll increasingly invest in more sophisticated embedding types, but I think that URL approach or code embed approach are really the most important and most powerful versions of embedding.
And I'll just add, for lightweight databases, you can use some combination of Sheets and AppScript and then embed the AppScript in your site today. We've seen many site users use that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for answering that. One question that we've seen a couple times pop up is around searching for Google Sites. So in terms of SEO, are these pages treated like any other site, or is there a different way that they're treated in terms of searching for them on Google?
I can take that. Google search doesn't treat Google Sites any differently than any other type of site. So all of the same rules for any other site provider would apply for us.
And I'll add that you can prevent search engines from crawling your site with an option in the publishing dialog. So that's a sort of a convention that search engines tend to follow, including Google.com.
Okay, perfect. That's super helpful. Another question is, if you click on a collaborator, does it take you to the page that they're editing, like in Google Docs? Like if you were to click one of the people who are editing?
It does not.
Okay.
But that's definitely a good feature request. We'll take that back.
So I built that feature in Google Docs and Google Slides, so I feel kind of dumb that I didn't think about doing it in Sites. But so that's on me. But yes, it's a great feature idea.
Awesome. I'm sure that this feedback is super helpful. We had a couple other comments about a couple other product feedbacks about white space about custom themes. Will white space be controllable in the custom themes?
Yeah, so I think we're not quite ready to share all the details about custom themes yet. Generally speaking, you'll have much more control over the look and feel of your site beyond what you can today. But stay tuned for more details. They're coming soon.
Okay, awesome. Maybe we can bring you back on the show when we have custom themes, and we can talk more about that in the future.
Sounds good.
Let's see. So a couple other questions. I'm just going through. We had quite a few comments. So I want to make sure that I don't miss any of them. Do you plan to adjust Google Sites with AMP or Core Web Vitals?
We don't have any plans to do that right now. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe good feedback that there's interest. Awesome. Let's see if there's any other questions. Also, viewers, please feel free to continue posting your questions. We'll be on for a couple more minutes. And I'm just going to make sure that all the questions are covered before we go through any final show reminders. There was another question that was about right to left languages, and our teammates in the actual live chat sent a link for that document about more detailed there. So I don't know if there's any other additional context that the team wants to add around that.
This was another one that Michael built.
Yeah, so I'll just say we support right to left languages. Well, we support hundreds of locales around the world. So the user interface will be automatically translated for site editors. And if another site editor or collaborator is using Google Sites and they have a right to left language enabled in their locale, then they'll see the UI generally flipped, with the exception of the actual web page itself. So the web page itself is always aligned the same for all users. It's not flipped arbitrarily, because we feel that'd be very confusing, especially if two people are collaborating it simultaneously and they can't agree on what right and left are. But yeah, if you pick a particular locale to build your site in all of your language, and your layout is done accordingly, then you'll all see the same thing at the same time.
Okay, cool. Good to know. I think we may have covered all of the major questions. Oh, one more actually just came through. Will it be possible to add sitemap.xml in the future?
Yeah, this is something we're considering for a future project. No concrete plans right now, but potentially in the future. Okay,
awesome. Great to know. Yeah, I think that might be all the questions that we have so far. Viewers, if you have anything else, please post it. But this was super helpful. So thank you all for joining. As I mentioned earlier, viewers, please know that you can come back and rewatch any part of this that you want. So make sure to do that if you have if you want to rewatch and learn more about Google Sites. But thank you so much for joining. I don't see any more questions coming in, so we can go ahead and wrap up. And from here, I'll go ahead and say thank you so much, and then we can finalize with any future show reminders. So thank you all for joining. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and remove our guest speakers from the show, but We'll give a quick round of applause for them. And then just so to make sure everybody knows, please subscribe to our YouTube channel to get future updates on shows. That's the best way to find out about new episodes. We also post about them on our social feeds. So some links for all of our resources are here. So you can go to our YouTube channel is youtube.com/Google for Nonprofits, our Twitter handle @Google Nonprofit, and you can find our Facebook page at Google for Nonprofit. We also have a community forum. So if you have any questions that you want to ask our Google for Nonprofits community, you can go to this link here and post your questions, and members of the Google for Nonprofits community will be there to help you. And as I mentioned earlier, we get our ideas for the show from this survey. So it's goo.gle/webinar. So fill out the survey and we'll use your ideas to inform future topics. So thank you all again for joining. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap up and let us know if you have any feedback. Have a good one.